Hi all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm trying a vlog-ish style piece where I'm doing time-lapse of my work as normal, but trying to do real-time parts of what my thoughts are about the process and things like that as I go along. So the piece that I'm actually going to be working on is going to be this. This is the colour study version, it's not the final piece that you're actually going to see me painting. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen this up there and like the base sketch and things like that. It originally started with my 100 heads challenge and then grew from my cloud study and all of that. So what we're going to be filming is me completing this piece. So this is going to be done on my Aquafine cold pressed paper. I do enjoy the texture of this paper and I'm hoping that it should turn out pretty well. Obviously it's thinner than the sketchbook I was working in, so there's been a couple of slight changes in the layout, but the overall idea is still there. So the idea is we're going to film my process of this and I'm going to do updates after every part to say how I'm getting on. Yes, I know I've done the sketch first. I always do that first because I'm just not confident in filming my sketches yet. I make a lot of mistakes and I also lean over the work, so you just mainly be seeing the back of my head, which isn't that interesting. Anyway, I need to stop rambling. Let's cut to trying to do the background and hopefully we'll see how that goes in a few days. Okay, so a quick voiceover for this little part while we work on the background of the piece. Now I'm using my Windsor and Newton gouache that I got, and I'm using a watercolour technique where I'm using a clear wash of water across the page first and then put in small amounts of colour onto my Windsor and Newton. Now the mistake that I made here is I didn't really water down my Windsor and Newton paint that much, and so it's come out a lot more vivid than what I originally planned for this piece, which is a bit frustrating. And you'll see as we move on to the actual clouds that it's a lot stronger in colour than what I had originally planned. It's a bit frustrating, but I have learnt from this and it's a tip I want to share with you. When you're going to be working on your final pieces, then definitely have a piece of paper next to you of the same paper type that you're using, but one that you can do just some swatching, just to double check the colour and the vibrancy and just see whether you need to tweak your water to gouache ratios or whether it's water to watercolour or whatever it is medium you're using. Just do double check that first. That way you're not going to have to spend as much time tweaking the colours that you're doing like what I had to, which I had to do a lot of tweaking throughout this video on that background simply because I just wasn't getting the colours that I was looking for, and if I just spent that little bit more time swatching, it would have solved the whole problem. So as we're moving on to the clouds, obviously they're coming out really red and orange, and actually the colours I used was pink and yellow, but for some reason I think it's more to do with the camera setting that I had on. I didn't think to check it before I started filming, which is such a rookie mistake, but it's come out a lot more red and orange than what it actually is meant to be, which is a bit frustrating, but never mind. So pair that with the fact that the colours are too vivid for what it was supposed to be anyway. I really wasn't happy with this stage, but it is part of the process, that's why I've kept it in. Now the other part was obviously the clouds themselves. Even after doing this cloud study, I still did struggle to get the texture. We do get there in the end towards the end of the video, but it was a bit of a work in progress for quite a while. But this first stage, it is messy, it's nothing amazing, but I wanted to show it simply because it's an important part of the process and you're always going to have a stage where you don't like your artwork, and it's really important not to give up and just keep pushing through, because eventually you will come to something that you do like and enjoy and was worth your time. But anyway, I'm rambling, we're coming up to our stop in just a second. Okay, so this is our first check-in. I actually did some painting the same day I filmed the introduction, which I'm quite surprised at that I've actually done today. So this is the first layer on the background. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of work to be getting on with. We need to finish off the sky here, and we also need to lighten the clouds because they're coming across very orangey red, which wasn't the idea. But it's a first layer. It's always just about getting those base colours, just getting everything in position, and then I'm going to go over with some lighter washes. First bit, never like this stage. I never like this stage, but it is a part of artwork, so I'm going to show it, and I'm going to stop here because it is time to grab some dinner. Okay, so here I did actually work on it a bit more after dinner, and as you can see, the background itself is looking a lot smoother, and the clouds aren't as anywhere near as red and orange as they were looking, and I've added in a bit more detail to each of them. I have kept a little bit of the footage here, just showing you where I'm tweaking some of the clouds and the sky on the background, mainly with washes of white to add in, like to lighten up all the clouds as you see there, and then also some very, very light washes of blue just to try and smooth out that background a bit more. So as we're moving on to the face, I actually work on my faces in a very particular way. So I will do the darkest shadows areas first, and then I will do a lighter mid-tone colour, and then go in with some rosy colour just to add a bit of blush to the cheeks and nose. And here you'll see me adding in a little bit of blue. Now what this does is it helps tie in the piece to everything at once. So the human face, when you originally look at it, you don't notice many different colours, but in reality it's actually made up of a lot of colours of reflections of things. So to help make the piece feel tied in properly, I add in colours from the background. So the blue of the sky goes into some of the darker shadows, and then the pink, which is in the clouds and will be in the little ponies as well, that goes into the face as well, and that way the end result is everything's tied in together and feels like nothing's really out of place, or at least that's the idea. So as you can see, I'm trying to work on this neck, and I mess around with it for quite a while. I really did struggle with it, and I'm not quite sure why I struggled with it so much, but I just found that the technique that I'd used on the face just wasn't working for the neck for me. Partly I think I had done a few issues with the neck, but I left it alone for a day. I let it dry, and as you can see I worked on the background a tiny bit more before again trying to tweak that neck and just trying to add in more values to the tone, so for the shadows and the highlights. Again, I keep leaving it, going back to the background, trying to tweak the background a little bit more to getting it to the point where I want it, adding in a few more clouds that aren't with all the colour just to get the depth to the piece, and then I go back to the neck. And I repeated this process quite a lot. I actually cut out quite a bit of this footage because it was just the same thing again and again, trying to lighten and darken different areas, trying to get that right mix of values, to the point where I overworked it, where the paper was honestly starting to lose some of the thickness, and it wasn't working. I overworked it far too much. But I finally left it and moved on to the lips. Now the lips I really enjoyed. I did more of a purple tint to begin with, and then did a really nice red on the actual tongue itself. I use a pooling technique here and use the tea towel to sponge off the excess, and it gives it this really nice textured effect, which is what you want for a tongue, because your tongue is not completely smooth. I then go in with a bit of purple on the lips, again tying everything together before adding in the different shadows. Now I left the shadows till last simply because I wanted to work the shadow on top of the colours that were already there, just to make that work. Then with my very fine brush, I'm going in, adding in all the extra details, so the darker bits to the nostrils, the eyelashes, before finishing up with a light wash of pink for the hair. I was actually really pleased with how I got to. It took me a while, and I spent about 2 or 3 days on this part just getting to this point, but it was worth it, and I finally stopped messing around with that neck. But yes, so that's it for this little voiceover, and I'll see you in a second. Okay guys, this is check-in number 2. Apologies about the voice, I'm getting over a cold, so you have to bear with me. So this is how we've gotten to so far, and I'm actually really pleased. We did quite a lot, managed to smooth out the background that was causing me a bit of hassle at the end of the first check-in, which you know, and we've also added in the skin colour, which finally stopped tweaking the neck, which was causing me a bit of hassle, and we've blocked in the hair colour, which I'm really happy with. Love pink hair. So the next step is going to be adding in all the detail on the hair, which is a bit of a challenge for me. I'm not amazing at doing hair, so hopefully we can get that to work and try not to overwork it too much, which is why I've blocked in the colour now so that I have something to work from. And then it will be adding in the little ponies, and then just any other little tweaks of shadows and highlights that need doing. So hopefully should only be an extra maybe day or so on this. So we'll see how it goes. So for me, I'll see you in a couple of days, but fingers crossed in the next few minutes this piece will be finished. Okay, so it definitely wasn't a few days. This cold kicked my butt and it meant I didn't work on it for at least another week. So it ended up taking me quite a bit longer than what I'd hoped. But I do start on the hair first, and in all honesty, I kept most of the footage for this hair part simply because I really do struggle with doing hair. I find it difficult to get the texture. I have watched different videos such as Zeke's Lunchbox video on how to get texture of fur and hair using acrylics. And obviously I'm using gouache, so it's slightly different. And I try adding some of that in, but I don't know, it's a little bit tricky to try and get it to look lifelike. And I do tweak it quite a bit. But yeah. So moving on to these little ponies, I kind of work in the same way that I work on my faces. I do the darker shadows first and then go in with a mid-wash of colour across it. Now, I do apologise, my camera kind of struggled to focus on the pink horse for some reason, so it goes in and out of focus a little bit, so I do apologise for that. But these horses in that were actually inspired by My Little Pony and another animation which I've totally forgotten the name, and of course I forgot to check it before I did this voiceover, but I'll try and have pictures of those up just so you can see where I got the ideas from. And I wanted to do pink and purple to go, well, they're pretty much my favourite colours, and this piece is supposed to all be about childlike joy, so that sense of feeling joy and happiness and not having the worries and stuff, just being a bit more carefree, that as a child you tend to have more than as an adult. And I really wanted to capture that in this piece. And so for me, part of that is like ponies and unicorns and just clouds and just bright colours, and it's just, that's all part of trying to create this piece. So hopefully that kind of emotion comes across in this piece of just more simple joy without any outside factors. But yeah, I think overall this piece was difficult to do, but I enjoyed each part of it, and I know that these horses aren't the best. I mean, this was on A4 paper and those horses are absolutely tiny, so you'll have to forgive me for the detail on that not being perfect. Now, I try and do a bit of pill porn here because we all love that. However, I'm actually quite bad at it, so I do apologise. And I'm just using standard masking tape, and for some reason, like, it doesn't show up too well in the video, but that masking tape is still ripping some of the paper, and I don't understand what it is. Like, I thought it was just the washi tape from when I used it in my sketchbook, but even this masking tape was causing that damage to the paper, and it really upset me. But never mind. Overall, I'm really pleased with this piece. It was really fun to create and just do something a bit different, and it's a piece I've had in mind for a long time. Okay, welcome to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching it this far. I'm really pleased with how this piece has turned out. It's actually taken me 3 weeks to do. So obviously the time lapse and things like that, it doesn't really show that time at all. That's what I wanted to try and do this vlog, to show you how many times I stopped and things like that. It was actually more, but I had to cut some of it out simply because this video was going to end up far too long. So yeah, but 3 weeks and we finally did it. I had to fit it in around work, which is why it took me so long, but I'm pleased with how this went, and this is the first of a series of dreamscapes that I'm actually going to be doing. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen some studies of the pieces, so you kind of have an idea of what's coming up. So if you enjoyed this type of video, please let me know in the comments below and give it a thumbs up. That way, if I know enough people like it, I can start doing the future dreamscapes that I plan on doing in this type of format. If not, I'll just do it in the standard time-lapse style with a voiceover over the top. I genuinely don't mind. I just want to know what you prefer, whether you want like a bit more interactive like this, or whether you'd rather have just the time lapse. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, really helps the channel out. And I'll see you in next week's video, which is going to be a review of 2019.